Okay, everyone, as Dr. Saliba Sarsar said that we are combining uh, the two panels, the religious tourism and the business part of it, as business people suggested that to combine them and maybe we can have discussed the business of the tourism. All right, I wish if you can have your coffee and sit down, please. No, we're combining them. Maha? Hi.
Hey, Ratib, you don't have to give me a long introduction, just my name. That's all. So I have more time, so I have two more minutes.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me just introduce our panel for the religious tourism. I'm glad that I have here from my left Sami Khouri. Sami Khouri is a consultant in tourism. He knows everything about tourism in Palestine because he developed his own website, Visit Palestine. And this is something you need to look at, and you'll know what Palestine is offering. Next to Sami, and you can read about their bios. It's in the book, their bios. But Mary Jane she led 48 pilgrimages to the Holy Land over the years, and she took about over 2,000 to 3,000 people, she and her husband, Deacon Tom. And that, what does it mean? It means that she knows the Holy Lands inside out. Next to Mary Jane is Sami Awdaye. He is the chairman of the incoming tours to the Holy Land, and he is a businessman. He has the best hotel in Jerusalem, the Ambassador, and he has travel agency. He knows the travel to Palestine. This is very important panel. We're trying to show you what is it all about Palestine, because Palestine has a lot to offer. Tourism, the religious tourism, let me be specific, it is the oil of Palestine, because we don't have any other resources except the tourism, the religious tourism, because we have the holy places, we are in the Holy Land, and this is what we can offer you. It's not only that, as just the holy places, and the original Christians who are going to be receiving you as the living stones, living there, and you'll be meeting with them, as I'm sure you are all aware of that. And this message not only for you, it is for the people who are watching us on the internet to understand what is tourism, what is the religious tourism to Palestine as destination. We are going to start with Sami. Sami has a nice presentation about Palestine and tourism in Palestine. Then after that, we can go to Mary Jane and then to Sami. Then we'll proceed with other question and answers and whatever we need to talk about the business of tourism. Please, Sami, please, if you can.
Thank you, Ratib. Again, thank you, Ratib and HCEF, for inviting me and having me part of this time again. I was here last year. Just to, my presentation will be quite quick. Just to give an overview of Palestine as a destination and what we have to offer. What are the main challenges that we face as a tourism destination? A quick journey through what the destination has to offer. And then, for those who are interested, also various online guides and resources that can help you plan and learn more about the destination. The key thing is, you cannot really separate Palestine from Israel when it comes to the Holy Land experience or to a pilgrimage experience. No pilgrimage can be complete without including Nazareth to Bethlehem, Tiberias, Jerusalem, Jericho. It's really one product. But for us, we're unfortunately at the short end of the stick. And I will get into the shortcomings and the main challenges that we do face, in spite of the fact that the majority of the sites, the religious sites, the historical sites, are actually based inside the West Bank. but we'll get to that quite shortly. You know, the industry has always been a barometer of Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In times of crisis, we see the industry plummet on both sides. For us, as you can see on the chart, that we've recovered almost fully since the slump of the year 2000. We're still seeing record numbers. Tourists are still increasing. Last year we topped 2 million, and I think this year, I haven't seen the final statistics from the ministry, but I think we're still seeing some further signs of growth. Again, looking at who's coming, it's quite diverse. The US market has been growing steadily, and now it's among the top 5 markets, both in terms of day visitors and in terms of overnight visitors. If we look at the overnight visitors, again, we've seen Russia, Poland, and Italy have always been in the top 3. The Palestinians living inside Israel, they are a huge segment. And obviously, the US. And we've also been seeing, emerging markets that are, gradually increasing in numbers. Some of the main challenges that we face as a destination, obviously, not controlling any borders. This is a huge hindrance. From not having our airport, taxes, statistics, controlling visitor flow. It's a huge challenge. I mean, we've seen, the impact of the occupation from Dr. Jad, and this has a direct implication on the tourism industry, whether as planners or as actual pilgrims and visitors. The separation wall, again, is transforming Palestine into different cantons, which we've seen. The lack or the limited freedom of movement for the locals and for the tourism service providers. Tour guides are a primary example of this. We have around 300 tour guides that compete against around 5,000 or 6,000 Israeli tour guides. Of the 300 tour guides, half of them are from the West Bank, and only a handful have permits, 40 to be specific. Again, land confiscation, settlements, natural resources, and obviously we are faced against, or we're competing against, a very highly resourced, highly funded, highly organized Israeli tourism industry with all its different facets. As a result of all this, our industry has been marginalized, especially in East Jerusalem. The tourism industry in Palestine is really focused on what we call the triangle of Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and Jericho. And it's true that's where many of the sites are, but if you look further up to the northern West Bank, it's completely marginalized. It's off the beaten track of most of the tourists, and this is something for us that we try to rectify, and I'll get to that quite shortly. Another challenge is our inability to make any tourism development in Area C. Like Dr. Jad also highlighted, a huge amount of our infrastructure and resources are in Area C. Sites such as Sebastia and others, we cannot do anything on them. Sites such as Qumran or Herodion, which should be under our jurisdiction, are actually controlled, visited, and on the Israeli National Park tickets. It's difficult to do any long-term planning. Too many scenarios, too many contingencies. We're much more proactive and short-term in our strategies just because of the realities on the ground. And the biggest thing is that there is a very huge leakage of tourism revenues that goes outside of the Palestinian host communities. The last number I saw was, I think, for every dollar, 90 cents is leaked outside. Now, despite all these challenges, like I said, we're still seeing an increase in tourism in terms of visitors, overnight stays. The types of visitors are changing. We have new hotels, restaurants that are popping up. Bethlehem, I think there's at least 5 hotels under construction today. There's ongoing restoration of different sites. There's around 18 different sites from Jenin in the far north all the way down to Hebron in the south that are slated for renovation and restoration to be integrated into our tourism offer. And we're developing new types of products, whether it's hiking, experiential tourism, and I'll also get into that very soon. One of the biggest problems we face as an industry, especially the traditional pilgrimage industry, is it's very mass tourism oriented. The way the packages have been structured for decades, it leaves very limited time, money being spent inside Palestinian host communities. Very little interaction with the living stones. Tourists are running in the footsteps of Jesus. Their interaction with the locals are through the buses. And this is something that we try to rectify because it's peace building, it's cultural interaction. It's learning the story of the living stones. And this is what we call probably, the whole notion of a pilgrimage for transformation. The program that the Holy Land, the HCEF is running, Meeting the Living Stones, is a primary example of what are the missing components from any pilgrimage, is the interaction with the living stones. How do we fit regionally? Because again, the Holy Land is the region. You can even extend it into Jordan. We see a lot of synergy. Today, again, you're looking at the top priority markets for the different destinations, and you see where we have the synergy. We are selling one product. whether it's religious tourism, cultural tourism. We're seeing increasing in ecotourism. And for Palestine, it's important that we actually tap into this and become a much more part of this regional tourism offer. Again, I don't know if any of you have been to Palestine, to the Holy Land, so I figured I'll just give a very quick glimpse of what the destination has to offer. Again, Palestine, it's a mosaic of religious, historical, cultural, and natural treasures. If we just look at Palestine as being at the heart of the pilgrimage experience, just looking at the religious and the spiritual, sites and shrines that we actually have, starting from Jerusalem, which is home to the 3 monotheistic religions. Bethlehem, the city of the Nativity. Any corner you look at, there's always going to be something of significance. Jericho, which is the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world, from Mount Temptation to Qumran to Wadi Kilt and St. George. There's an abundance of sites, and these are all part, or can be part, of any pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Stretching farther up to the north, from Nablus and Jenin, again, we have sites that have, gradually are being restored, but very few tourists are actually visiting, and that's because of the way these programs are structured. I'm not going to get into too much into those details, but the northern West Bank has been marginalized from day one. And in '94, after the Oslo Accord, when we really started to see a development in the tourism industry, it was focused in Bethlehem, Jericho, and Jerusalem. Gradually, the industry started to recover, to develop different sites up in the north. Then came the second Intifada, and everything kind of came to a standstill. And today, to really revive tourism to the northern West Bank, we have to look at how we can manipulate the route of, the type of packages and how these packages are structured. One way to do it is, the pilgrims, they usually start up in the north, in Nazareth and Galilee, and then they make their way down to the south, either going through the Jordan Valley or along the coast. Today, it is possible, quite problematic, but it is possible to cross through what's known as the Jalami crossing near Jenin, and coming down through the West Bank, through Jenin, Nablus, Sebastia, as you head down to Jerusalem and Bethlehem. It's problematic, but it is possible. And that's the only way to really revive tourism up in the northern West Bank. Gaza, unfortunately today, it's time, we all know the situation in Gaza, but the potential is there, and one day it will be opened up, and it will become part of our tourism offer again. Just going beyond the traditional tourism or pilgrimage experience. I mean, we looked at all the religious sites that are in Palestine. But there's a lot more than that. Like we all know, I mean, the history, stretches back, Jericho goes back 10,000 years. The old city of Jerusalem is a museum, it's a living museum in and of itself. Hisham Palace, Sebastia, anywhere you look, there are lots of historical and archaeological sites that have their own stories to tell. And in many cases, these sites are not on the beaten track of the millions of pilgrims and tourists are visiting. Palestine is rich and has a very vibrant cultural life. A lot of people are not aware of that. We have almost a dozen different cultural festivals that happen every year. They stretch from Jenin all the way down to Hebron. Some of them are smaller in scale, some of them are very traditional, authentic, some of them have gradually evolved. Again, from music festivals, the olive harvest, the Artas lettuce festival, you name it, there is something that can appeal to almost any visitor. And these are annual events. The natural landscape, again, like I said, we are developing new products, whether it's hiking, bird watching, homestays. There are all different types of products that are happening. There is the Abraham Path. Again, and I'll show you some online resources towards the end which can help you, like I said, to plan and organize your trips in the future. The landscape of Palestine, again, is very diverse, whether it's from the Dead Sea to the beautiful olive terraces. There's a spice for everything, and it's confined in such a small space, you can actually experience everything in any trip. Again, I won't take too much time. I think I'll leave more time for my colleagues and for the questions and answers. But some of the useful guides, because again, I mean, for people to really plan, to plan your trip. For us, we know in Palestine that there's a huge gap online in terms of information to help you plan your trip. You Google anything, you'll see, Israeli sites, Israeli tour operators, and for us, it's important that we drive people to these sites because these are the tour operators, the Palestinian tour operators and hoteliers that can actually help you to develop the right packages that are balanced, that give you an authentic experience, give you the time spent semi-equally between Israel and Palestine. And it's not just the time, it's the interaction, it's the spending that should trickle down into the host communities, which have been marginalized for decades. Travel Palestine, this is the official website of the Ministry of Tourism. The second one, which is the Holy Land Tour Operators, that's from my colleague, Mr. Sami Abudaya. This is the association that lists all of the Palestinian tour operators that specialize in handling groups and different tours throughout the Holy Land. The Palestine Hotel Association, again, there's a listing of all the hotels. In case you're coming and you just want to stay in a hotel, you're not interested in doing touring, you want to customize your own tours, that's another good site. A very new initiative, which is known as nepto.ps. This is a network for experiential tourism organizations. It's a handful of around 22 different organizations that specialize in different niche types of tourism, from hiking, from homestay, from olive harvest programs, to the traditional pilgrimage programs. They're all NGOs. The network is actually growing, and there are a lot of different fascinating products that people can take advantage of. The last one is visitpalestine.ps. This is a website that I co-founded. Today, this website, it is very comprehensive. It's available in English, Arabic, Spanish, and Italian. We just launched, actually, our mobile version. So again, we're trying to take things a step further. The site is compatible with over 5,000 different mobile devices. So if you come to Palestine, if you have an internet connection, you have pretty much all the information at your fingertips. And next month, we hope to be launching our iPhone application, which again should hope to promote and to give everything to the palm of your hand. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sami. It is always important that when you go on pilgrimage, not just to go to the holy places, you need to see the people of Palestine, the Christian, the living stones, as when we have our Children Peace projects and we bring kids, like when they were with Father Turner last summer, visiting with him, and they didn't know what to say when you say Holy Land, Holy Land. They said, oh, here we have the holy kids, And maybe this is something we could call the people of Palestine, the holy people. Mary Jane, as I said, she led about 42 pilgrimages, and she has a lot of experience. From her own experience, you can hear her, and that's why you should go to Palestine. And this is something, after that, we should make it, even we are not entitled to do that, but every Christian should go once a lifetime to the Holy Land as the Muslims goes to Mecca and Medina. And this is what we like you to do, because we love you and we want to see you there. Please, Mary Jane, would you come? Oh, you can speak from there too. Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Rateb and HCEF. My husband, Deacon Tom, and I are partners in full-time ministry in San Antonio, Texas, called Pilgrim Center of Hope. It's a Catholic evangelization apostolate with 3 components: ministry conferences, evangelization outreach, and pilgrimages. And the reason, how is it that an evangelization center is connected with pilgrimages? Well, I think you can pretty much gather the answer would be to really help people bring an awareness, to teach, and of course conversion, because we are in Catholic evangelization. But the important thing is to bring an awareness of the church in the Holy Land. We take groups to Italy as well, and we were there just last week. And I often, even when we do pilgrimages elsewhere, we stress the important fact that Rome is not the mother church; it is indeed Jerusalem. The one thing about the ministry of pilgrimages, we call them journeys of faith, and we really use the word prayer and act of solidarity. So when we advertise, if I use the word advertise, our pilgrimages, we really stress the fact that they're pilgrimages, journeys of faith with prayer and solidarity. It's a word that we need to use quite often, and unfortunately, maybe I'm speaking on behalf of Catholic Americans, we don't use that word very often, solidarity. And so it's really much into the social justice issue of the church. We do combine 4 points that the United States Conference Catholic of Bishops really stress when they encourage Catholics in organizing pilgrimages. And how many of these do comply with these 4 points? I hate to say, not very many. you heard the statistics. Out of let me first mention the 4 points. Their prayer, visiting an NGO in the Palestine, using a Christian guide, and visiting a local church and having an experience with local people of Palestine, the local church. Now, you heard the statistics. There's 7,000 licensed guides, less than 100, even less than that, are Christian. So imagine, how many of you have seen advertisements in your churches, in your communities, go to Israel, come to the Holy Land, walk in the footsteps of Jesus, but how many would receive a Catholic or Christian guide or a Palestinian guide that will give you an objective view of the land, which is really called the Holy Land? I like to say that we always promote pilgrimages to the Holy Land. Our pilgrims often catch themselves when they say, we're going on a pilgrimage to Israel. I mean, the Holy Land. Because we really stress the fact that the experience of the land and the acts of solidarity. I'd like to give a couple of, I'm not a storyteller, but certainly like to give a couple of the stories of how we really, to give you an idea of what our pilgrimages are about. We do work with other organizations like Catholic Relief Service. We have worked with Holy Land Christian Ecumenical Foundation in Palestine. We visited their sites as well and promote them a lot with our pilgrimages. But one specific experience was with CRS, a Catholic Relief Service project site in Bethlehem, where it's a Palestinian Women's Solidarity Group. It's a group of women, they're Muslim, who, because of their men not being able to work, lack of permit and movement in the wall, these women took up the role of making Palestinian embroidery items. Through a CRS representative in Jerusalem, we met them and we decided to take this under our arm or our wing, and we're supporting this Palestinian Women's Solidarity Group. Now imagine a group of Catholics going to Palestine, a small village outside Bethlehem, visiting a group of Muslim women, making embroidered items, hearing their story in Arabic, mind you, being translated into English, buying these items, which come up to, we support over almost $2,000 in less than 2 hours. And the result is a whole different change of mentality in less than 2 hours. And the fact that these kind of project sites, visits, are so important during a pilgrimage. Another one would be that, well, we certainly experience walking through a security checkpoint. Most groups go by bus. There's been times when our group had to get off the bus and walk through a security checkpoint. And we pray the rosary out loud, everybody knew that we were right there supporting the Palestinians, praying for peace and justice. And another thing that we do, we pray what we call the New Wailing Wall. Part of the pilgrimage experience is not only, yes, combining prayer, walking in the footsteps of Jesus, but putting prayer into action. Praying at what we call the New Wailing Wall, the separation wall. And so we have a group of Americans standing with hands on the wall. And as we visit we invite those who are watching to join us as we pray out loud that this wall fall, and that there be true peace and justice for all the people in the Holy Land. And we add our own graffiti. We write on the wall, may this wall fall, may there be peace and justice to the Palestinian people. This is really part of our organizing of the pilgrimages and the acts of solidarity. But I tell you, people often ask us, why are you, we think you're too serious. We won't go with you. We want to go on vacation. Well, I think our challenge is what Sammy said. We've got to be creative in our challenges and our presentations and our promotions. How in the heck are we going to get people to the Holy Land if we're just using a cookie cutter package, which many pastors use, unfortunately, in my own city and in other cities throughout the U.S. And I'm talking mainly about the Catholic Church, and I'm sure other denominations. So we try to be creative and bring it. I say we cast cast the net, we get the bait out there, make it look really interesting. And yes, we have orientation meetings before the pilgrimage to get the interest up and say, look what you're going to see and do. But we also put in there, we're going to have opportunities to meet the living stones. It's being creative and using certain terminology, certain presentations, using the digital media. We have on our Pilgrim Center of Hope website, the Ministry of Pilgrimage page, interviews of Palestinians living in Palestine on our website. And you know, our media consultant who works full-time for the ministry has done a research and said, do you know, Mary Jane and Tom, that this Pilgrim Center of Hope website, you guys are probably one of the very rare few people that have interviews of Palestinian people on their website. Listed on the Ministry of Pilgrimage. Are we going to be challenged to use our creativity in that way to promote pilgrimages? I think another challenge would be to address the solution is to have business projects and tax-exempt projects for business people who want to lead groups, who want us to sponsor a young adult, a student, a clergy, a religious to the Holy Land so they can be transformed, to have them see and experience. We use the word experience because that's one of our next project things is to try to help bring clergy and religious and inviting business people to help donate, making a donation so it's tax exempt. And at the same time, they're supporting a clergy and religious to go to the Holy Land so that we can connect them to the local church and experience. They can come back and inform their community. We continue to, next year we have 6 pilgrimages to the Holy Land. I wish Tom and I were leading all 6, but we're in the, to end, I'd like to say that we're in the process of training group leaders so that they too can take groups to the Holy Land with the intention of prayer and solidarity.
Thank you, Mary Jane. That's really work. Everybody should do that, you know, in order to encourage people to be aware of the injustice we have in Palestine, even if we just go for pilgrimage and for spiritual purposes, but at the same time, we cannot just close our eyes. You know, that's the thing. The other thing is when we ask that we need a Christian guide because, you know, we don't want, you know, to have a Jewish guide just without saying, you know, why they are there and what are the holy places should be. And sometimes, you know, we get offended when they say, that's what the Christian believe in. It's not like what it happened or already in the Holy Land. And these are things, you know, it is just sensitive, you know, issues, and we have to be careful. That's why we ask for that, to ask, you know, to tell your story while you are on pilgrimage. Sammy would like to ask you, but first, before you speak, is that you should have a name Sammy if you are in the tourism business?
I guess so.
Okay. Please, Sammy, yes.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to, talk about the financial part, being in the tourism business. You know, it's we are contributing around 15% of the GDP of Palestine, and that is an important sector. And the potential to increase it up to 30% of the GDP is doable. Is doable by investing in infrastructure. In Bethlehem, in the last 5 years, they added 22 hotels, new hotels in the last 5 years, and this is all private money. That shows you that people, when they realize that there is a potential of investment, they are doing it on their own and not depending on foreign money or support from outside. The difficulty, what we are facing, is in Jerusalem. We take care of the groups like Sami mentioned, you know, from arrival till departure. We show them all the Holy Land, you know, arriving from the airport or from the crossing points. We take them to Tel Aviv, to Galilee, to Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and this is where we would like to spend for the groups to spend more time on our side. And I would like to propose a program that maybe for you to consider in the future, if you, to start, you know, instead of going to Galilee, most of the groups are going to Galilee, which is, it has the right sequence, you know, by Annunciation. But from the birthplace is to go from the airport to Bethlehem, spend 2 nights, then go to the Jordan Valley for the baptismal site, up to the ministry area of Christ, Mount Beatitude, Tiberias, and then come to Jerusalem for the, you know, the place of the resurrection. So this is one possibility where more nights will be spent on the Palestinian side, in Palestinian hotels, Christian institutions, whatever your choice. The category of the hotels will determine what you would like to spend on at the end of the day, you know, on a pilgrimage. You can spend $2,000 or you can spend $5,000. It all depends on the quality that you are expecting. And we have the quality. We can improve in certain cases, but we have the quality that all pilgrims are looking for. The challenge, you know, like I said, you know, the challenge is Jerusalem by itself. In '67, we had only 2,000 rooms, 2,000 rooms in Jerusalem. Now we hardly reached 800, and from '67 till today, no hotels were added in East Jerusalem, and this is one of the impediments, and this is one of the things that affected East Jerusalem. It's not only, we cannot claim it, you know, blame everything on the occupation, but this is the flight of capital out of Jerusalem is the main reason, and we should really rework, you know, reverse that, and have people to invest more in East Jerusalem, because that's the only way we can protect the people and create jobs. At the end of the day, we have, if people don't feel the benefit from tourism, they're not going to stay behind, so they're going to look somewhere. So we have to invest, and our investment should be in infrastructure, building more hotels, even transport, whatever. If we have the people, the money is well trickled into the marketplace. Everyone will benefit, and we need more of Americans to come over and to spend the time with us. Thank you.
I wish all the speakers like that, they have short presentations, you know, makes our life easier. Thank you, Jad. I want to ask a couple of questions here, you know, for the hotel industry, is that sometimes we were asked about, because yes, we take pilgrims, but sometimes we are interested in business people to go on pilgrimage and to go to Palestine, but always they have that concern about internet service, and they are concerned about cell phones, because sometimes maybe, you know, if they are there, they want to let their families know that they are safe or something. Maybe Ghassan, do you have any comments on that? Is that a problem could be solved? Is how they, pilgrims, if they go to Palestine, how they can have temporary telephones or something, you know, to carry with them instead to use? Sometimes international telephone doesn't work there.
Skype, free.
That's why I thought, you know, to cut on that sugar.
You wanted me to cut on sugar, huh? They can have easy access. Their mobiles can be roaming. They can obtain visitors' SIM card that they can use. Easy access of internet, high-speed internet. I mean, it's a extremely well-developed infrastructure. It's one of the best infrastructures, by the way. It's fiber-based infrastructure that is better than probably what exists anywhere.
They can buy the SIMs and they can use it, you know, when they get there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yep. You can buy time on that. Yes.
They can, you know, charge it with whatever amounts that they want, and they can use it. It's accessible and active on right there on the spot. So.
May I add to that too, that there's telephone cards that people can purchase, very, very economical, like $8, $10 as well.
Absolutely.
So it's very possible
to
communicate.
They have a lot of different schemes and plans that they can select from, and they can be connected just, you know, with a simple plug.
And I think we have hotspots all over, and I think Palestine is one of the few places where hotels offer free internet service. I mean, In all the hotels, it's free. And most of the cafes, restaurants, almost anywhere you go, there will be a Wi-Fi connection somewhere.
That's in Jerusalem only? Or
throughout Palestine. Yeah. From the 3-star to the 5-star hotels, its internet is readily available for everybody.
Very good. Anybody has any question for our panelists? Yes, Hashim.
It's more of a additional comment to Sami's points. Looking at the numbers, I guess being a banker, having breakfast with Sami yesterday, we were talking about the potential for tourism, and like Mary mentioned that it's not the Vatican that's the, let's say, in Rome that's the center. It's really, you're talking Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and also for Islam, with the Hajj and pilgrim tourism to Mecca, everyone should eventually, all pilgrims should eventually go to Jerusalem. So when we looked at the numbers and we were kind of forecasting in an ultimate ideal scenario, we should have between 15 to 20 million tourists a year coming to Palestine, to the Holy Land. To Bethlehem and Jerusalem. Now, that translates to the need to have to invest heavily in infrastructure and to more than quadruple, if not more, the number of hotel rooms. And the average cost, construction cost, I think, investment cost for a hotel room is around $45,000, and I think we multiplied it by how many thousand rooms? 8,000 or 10,000 rooms. So you're talking about $500 million of investment needed just in hotel rooms. And of course, with hotel rooms, then you need all the other services: cafes, restaurant, entertainment, alternative entertainment. Then you have the need to upgrade all the infrastructure: roads, transport, airports. Water, sanitation, healthcare. I mean, this is a game changer for Palestine. Then, when you look at the current unemployment rate of 23%, and the very high youth unemployment of 40%, and you look at the GDP per capita of the Palestinians compared to the Israelis of $1,600 per capita compared to $30,000 per capita in Israel. This is Palestine's oil. I mean, we're not blessed with natural resources like oil and gas, like in the Gulf, but we have the Holy Land. This is our,
God gift.
Holiest of resources, and so. This is the potential. I just thought it's worth putting more numbers to the numbers that Sami mentioned, because, of course, as a leading bank in Bank of Palestine in the territories, this is music to our ears, because imagine the kind of financing and the projects that we would be involved in to finance all these projects coming. Just last year alone, under the current occupation and all the situation we're in today, we helped finance about 6 new hotels just in Bethlehem. Also a new hotel in Jerusalem last year, and which is the first time we financed a hotel in East Jerusalem, and a couple of hotels in Ramallah, and even a hotel in Gaza we were involved in. And so this is just in the current status quo, the current very challenging backdrop, and we managed to do that. So just worth mentioning to everyone, imagine the true potential of where we could go.
If I may, it does, the number that Hashim mentioned, 45,000 is doable in the West Bank, but not in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is 3 times more. That gives you an idea. That, not because it costs more, it's just only, it costs more because of the system that we are facing under the Israeli conditions. Because all the permits are given by the Israeli by the municipality and the district committee. And all that cost money. The land is more expensive also too in Jerusalem. So this is, it's 3 times more the cost to build a hotel in Jerusalem from the West Bank.
Let me just tell you a story about the oil. When I came to the United States in 1974, somehow my parents landed me in Columbia, South Carolina. And I was going to University of South Carolina, and they asked me if we have oil. I mean, for us, olive oil, we don't talk about, the petrol. I said, for sure, we have olive well in my backyard. I'm talking olive oil, and they're talking oil. I thought, I'm a sheik and coming, to the South Carolina, till the next day saw me working in that cafeteria cleaning tables. Then they understood that I don't have oil well. Yes, Hisham, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Hisham Kassab. Let me give a quick summary of my background. I'm the son of Palestinian refugees from 1948 in Lebanon. Last year, a bunch of us here based in DC, IT professionals, were invited to attend Expotech in Ramallah. And PETA was generous and gracious enough to invite us, and we were their guests. And almost accidentally, a couple of us went to Jerusalem. Also had a chance to go into, Jaffa, Haifa, Akka, etc., etc. So the reason I'm saying this is, as you were presenting, and I enjoyed all your presentations, but Mr. Khoury, I really enjoyed your presentation. I thought it was very well done, well crafted. And what I thought was, in your market segmentation, you had segments, and when you actually had Palestinians of 48, I thought you were referring to me, but you're referring to Arab al-Dakhil. And I wonder if you may or may not be aware of my segment. And Mr. Abu Dayyib, I spoke to you about this yesterday. There are refugees from 1948, Palestinians, who ended up in Europe, in the US, are citizens of Europe and the US, who are able legally to travel into pre-1948 or 1948, I don't know how to say it, but basically pre-1948 Palestine. And I think they would truly enjoy it. I tell this to everybody. It's ranking all the trips I've had an opportunity to go on in my life. That's number one. There's no competition. There's no debate. That's number one. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you may or may not be aware of this market segment, but I think that it is truly a market segment that is refugees of 1948 refugees who, for them, Palestine is a dream to actually go there. And they wouldn't think twice about, it doesn't take much to convince us to go with a Palestinian-based company to do the tour in Jerusalem. And Mr. Shaw, I think, kind of pointed to this, and this is, I know I'm not slightly off topic, religious tourism, but there's also religious tourism for Muslims. And think about the millions of Palestinians who would love to pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque. And if they had the opportunity to do that, and also to tour historic Palestine or pre-1948 Palestine, I think there's a big market segment there, and I probably it's on your radar screen, but just in case, I thought I might mention my own personal experience. Thanks.
No, absolutely. Actually, I mean, the diaspora tourism was, I think it is one of the segments. It was highlighted there. It's definitely untapped. And just talking for me personally, I mean, one of the objectives of visitpalestine.ps is really to help promote and to give a guide for the individual travelers, for those who are traveling outside of a group, to give them all the resources that they need to have in order to plan their trip. And actually, hopefully next year, we will be launching a whole other section that has special content that's actually geared towards diaspora Palestinians, to try and make it a bit more appealing, looking also at historic Palestine, although it's a slippery slope in terms of the scope of the website as Visit Palestine.
Let me confirm what Hisham and you are saying. As you know, we have our new program, the Heritage. It is sponsored by Palestinian business people like Bank of Palestine and CCC, in that we take Palestinian Americans back home, and Muslims and Christians. And usually we go before Ramadan and spend the first couple of days of Ramadan over there. And when the first day of Ramadan, everyone wants to go to Aqsa to have the prayer there. And this is led to other things, as we are, recruiting, if you want to say, or asking, the young people from the age 18 to 25 to join us. The families are interested because a lot of Palestinians are uprooted from there. They don't have any relatives, and they don't feel like going there, or they don't know how to make it there. And they ask us to organize pilgrimages, for diaspora to go to Palestine. They just need somebody to organize it, and this is one of the things the diaspora are asking. And we're in Honduras and in Salvador, and they ask us to do the same thing. They've been there, never been there, and hopefully by next summer we could organize one of these trips to start getting the diaspora, or if Arab likes to go there, in order to have pilgrimage, because all what they hear we cannot, they will not let us in, and we'll do all that. But they need something to be organized. I'm not asking only HCF. If travel agencies here could do that, they will attract a lot of people, to go to. This is another market we should tap on, because this is very important.
Ratib, if I may, on the Islamic pilgrimages, we started getting some pilgrims from Turkey, from South Africa, from Britain, coming from all the, because there is a big Muslim community in England. So they are coming. However, the process of getting them through the borders is a bit difficult, to say the least. They really check them, closely. And that is one of the impediments of promoting more Islamic traffic.
And this is one of the things, even when we have the young professionals or the young people went with us last year, we went as Americans, and we have a letter from the Latin Patriarchate as they are guests of the Latin Patriarchate, and we thought, we are Americans, Australians, we are Westerners. We go through the Western terminal. When they looked at our name, Ratib, Muhammad, said, hey, hold it. You go to the other side one by one, you go to the Palestinian side. And when then they kept moving us from window to the other window for 7 hours till we get out. I mean, they question us, all the way, but, this is something else we have to accept it, because they said, our young people, it is worth it, as long as we got in. Maybe Reem Awad can say something about that, when on the bridge, when you were there, I think you were with them. Reem, your name is Reem Awad, right? Can you say something about your experience on the bridge? Put you on the spot, huh?
While she's coming to the microphone, I'd like to add, it's not so much having a name like Mohammed and Ratib, but also looking like you're Arab, like me, which is a compliment.
Yes, please.
Okay, I guess I can share two experiences. I did join the first KTH trip in 2011, and I did join Sir Ratib and the rest of the delegates on the bridge for 7.5 hours. We did sit in a room for a very long time. There were people that went ahead. There were a lot of people that were left behind. And the experience that I can compare that to is I actually just got back a few weeks ago from Tel Aviv airport, where I had a similar experience, but it wasn't 7.5 hours. But I could see that I was put aside for about 90 minutes while the rest went right through. My parents are from the pre-48. My dad's from Akko, my mom's from Nazareth. And so I only have family in North Israel. I don't have any in the West Bank. So the second trip, I didn't get to actually visit the West Bank. But again, I was separated from the rest of the group with an American passport. I don't have any other passport. And the two experiences are very different, but very similar in that they treat you the same way.
Thank you, Reem. That's a good thing. She keeps going back and forth after she got in. I mean, this is something, would like you to see, to go once, and you'll feel you want to go every year. Joanne, don't look at me like that. You will go, okay? That's if you pass it, okay? Please, Tom.
I'm Tom Fox, Mary Jane's escort, and I was just wondering if there has been an effort to offer a free Holy Land experience to journalists and congressmen. I know Israel has quite a program to do that, and I just thought there might be some benefit they may not, a lot of the journalists may not be interested in perhaps coming to this venue, but maybe if you offered them a free Holy Land experience, maybe they would accept that.
I mean, that's something needs to be done. I'm not sure about congressmen because it needs a lot of preparation to let them, to convince them to go to the Palestinian side, you know. And, you know, maybe they need permissions from I don't know who. But for journalists, I mean, there are some trips are doing that. Some congressmen, they went there. They go, but we need more of them to go there, especially with journalists, you know, when you take them and, you know, I'm sure we can have these fam trips, you know, for them. I'm sure every hotel owner, every bus owner can help us in hosting them, you know, in that. We just need to figure out the tickets and how to organize it. Yes, we would do that, and this is something should be looked into, and maybe, and that's why it's a good idea. See, the thing here, it is in Palestine, we don't have board of tourism, you know, in order to figure out all of that. And this is the discussion it was with Sami, and Sami I was talking about how we can be the information center, how we can be helping with coordination of the Ministry of Tourism to do such things like that in order to make people aware of it. Journalists could write about that, you know, and encourage, you know, that. You have something to say?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, just quickly, in May, well, our next pilgrimage is in May, and we are going to take, one journalist from the Catholic Diocese, but we are going to meet with local journalists in Palestine and in Israel to try to have the dialogue and experience, and again, trying to bring back stories and interviews for the website. And just want a little side note there. I think one of the greatest challenges, and I hear what Rateb's saying and about the board of ministry and so on, and it is a great challenge, but I think one of the greatest challenges is the propaganda that and it's good, the Ministry of Tourism of Israel is sending to millions and millions of church leaders, and they're not getting, you know, all they know is come to Israel, walk in the footsteps of Jesus. I think how can we get information to church leaders on a kind of invitation like that to come to the Holy Land and visit Palestine?
I have a proposal for you, Rateb, as long as you're living here in the States and you understand the mentality. Journalists, any journalist, I don't think they will be interested, but those who are in the religious magazines, they probably would be interested, and we want to pass the message through the religious magazines. This is one thing. If you do it, we'll sponsor it. Also, too, we could sponsor also too those who are in charge of conference, arranging for conferences from the different denominations, because we need the exposure. And for conferences, will give us the exposure as well as all what is needed for political reasons too.
I like that proposal, and let's talk more about it. And I guess we have a large list on our email for journalists, I mean religious journalists. We can invite them, and maybe the other thing is to invite some bishops and priests to another things, you know. They are opening a lot of topics here where we can work on with, you know, with you and your organization. Andrew, please.
Yes, I'm Andy Griswold from St. Paul's in Cambridge, and I just wanted to offer a few thoughts as someone who went on a pilgrimage last year, and our group is planning another trip in the spring of 2013. So I guess this is just some perspectives from Americans who want to travel to the Holy Land, who are involved with their parish and parish partnerships. So some thoughts from the customer, as you might say, from that market segment. And first, I just want to publicly thank the HCEF for doing such a wonderful job of organizing these pilgrimages. They have been such a fantastic partner to work with when we planned our last trip, and as we're planning our trip for the spring of 2013, both working with the office here in Bethesda, and as we've seen the growth of the Bethlehem office and the addition of staff over there to plan things on the ground. As I say, they just couldn't have been more accommodating and cooperative and accommodating our needs. So I just wanted to publicly recognize that. And let's give Ratib
Thank
a
you.
hand for all of that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
What I wanted to say, one thing to keep in mind is that when you have these groups going to the Holy Land, I think you're going to run into different levels of experience. You'll have people who are going to the Holy Land for the first time. In our case, we have a partner-parish relationship. We're trying to sustain that, so we're hoping to get repeat visitors and repeat trips. And so I know that sometimes we have somewhat unreasonable requests, Ratib would probably say, but again, they've been very accommodating. And on the DVD presentation that we saw earlier, I think it was mentioned the key to what HCEF does in planning these pilgrimages is flexibility. And that's so important, because the other thing that's happening that we found, once you start to get involved with the Holy Land and the Christians in the Holy Land, is that you make these other connections. So depending on what the group is, you're going to have lots of different requests, and you might come to HCEF and you're going to say, well, we'd like to visit this convent, or we'd like to go to this refugee camp because we know the director, or we want to go see Bishop Shakur this time. Can you see if his schedule is available? So the flexibility has been very, very good. And just to recognize that the Americans who become involved, they're going to have their own connections, they're going to have their own programs that they might want to do. Another thing that we've talked about in our group is that what we will probably have in the next trip is a mixture of people that have been before and people that are going for the first time. So we're trying to work out maybe doing almost something like a 2-track where the first-time visitors would get more time to go to the holy sites, but the returning visitors, they might want to do something more along the lines of volunteering through the HCEF, staying extra time in Bethlehem, and maybe volunteering at the Berzait Senior Center. Or we became very good friends the last trip with my friend Daoud Nasser at the Tent of Nations, who's working so hard to maintain his farm southwest of Bethlehem. And we might want to go and volunteer with him, because if I donated that almond tree, I want to go see if that almond tree is still there, that they haven't cut it down yet. And do I have to write to the Israeli consulate and say, don't you touch my tree that I endowed? So, so those kind of 2-track programs are important, because as HCEF is always telling us, this is about relationships, and part of the reason for us to try to sustain these pilgrimages, yes, it's both to attract new people coming in and get new people to go over to the Holy Land and get the first-hand experience, but also to sustain the relationship that we have and to support our sister parish and to keep up those connections with our friends over there. So I just wanted to offer those perspectives for you.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll do our best, and I'm sure everybody would love to see you there, and we'll do whatever we can to accommodate you. Even you have 3 tracks too, and working with you and Dorothy, it's a pleasure. You know, even you give us a hard time, but that will accept that, Andrew. Yes, Paul.
Thank you, Paul Verdine, Lutheran with Friends of Seville North America again. Wanted to ask our 2 Palestinian panelists, Sammy and Sammy, for the typical would-be American investor, is it a fair statement to say that to get a good return on your money, far and away the best place to put your money in Palestine would be in the tourism industry, financing the building of new hotels and the related transportation needs, because there are so many impediments to building up a business, enlarging a business on the West Bank. For example, 3 years ago, I had a good conversation with the 2 Khoury brothers in Taipei about their wonderful Taipei beer product. It's the best beer I've ever had, and I really mean that, the issue of Palestinian human rights aside. But they were afraid at that time to even think about enlarging their operation and getting into an export market in anything more than a token way, because they were not getting any cooperation from the Israeli authorities in that regard. Plus, they get all their water, of course, from the Israelis, and were afraid to, do anything more than service the limited West Bank market and the more lucrative Jerusalem market of Israeli Jews, and the tourists, of course. But tourism sounds like the safest way to go, tourism investment. Is that true in your opinions?
I definitely believe so, and I would encourage anybody who has the possibility is to really invest. The return on your investment is really great, especially in Jerusalem. Bethlehem is a little bit, not as attractive as the one in Jerusalem because of the lower and the more competitive nature of the traffic that's going over to Bethlehem. But Jerusalem, definitely you will make money. It's, also to over and above, you'll support the local people.
I guess too, yes, investments in that industry, you make money, and it's like HCEF last year started our HCEF in. Even we have a soft loan from Bank of Palestine, because if we didn't do that, we'll never finish that hotel. And now since last year, for 2 years, we met our the payments of this hotel. Hopefully, when we finish that, then we can have some money, for what we do. I guess it is there, and if we don't build Palestine under occupation, we cannot get anywhere. We cannot just talk about activism and want the freedom, and we need to do other things without investing. Investing is very important. Even, since I met Hashim at the Bank of Palestine for the first time in my life, I invest in stock. And I'm making money, 15 to 20%. This is not because Hashim is here, but I'm really, for the first time, I'm making money. And in Palestine, I can't believe that, regardless, small amount I put in. Look into that. There is a lot of things in Palestine that, you can make money. It is. Yes, we have we have in Palestine the good, the bad, and the ugly. But, look at the good things in Palestine. Thank you. Please.
I'm very curious to hear about any cooperations that you have with Israelis in the area of tourism. I know I have a personal friend who does a lot with ecotourism and bird watching with Jordanians and Palestinians. They got big grants from Europe, and whatever the future holds, we're kind of intertwined in our belly buttons. So I would like to hear a little more about your ideas around that. Thank you.
On the private sector level, there's definitely cooperation. Again, we're selling somewhat the same product. A lot of the tour operators or hoteliers in Israel or Palestine, they work together, whether it's out of pure necessity or out of pure business interest. This does happen. Obviously, I think as you trickle up, whether it's at the association level or government level, that's non-existent at this stage. But there are several initiatives on the NGO level, that are bilateral between Israelis and Palestinians, and some even have other third parties that come into play. Again, from a business perspective, there is this mutual interest. A lot of these people, even before 2000, the issue today is a lot of Israeli, let's say, tour operators or hoteliers, they have not been inside Palestine to see the new tourism product that we hope they would sell. There have been some initiatives where we've had fam trips to bring some Israeli tour operators into Bethlehem, Ramallah, Jericho, because again, they're being asked about these different products, and vice versa. But for Palestinians, I think, especially West Bankers, again, without the permits, they cannot actually go in and see what's actually developing. Before 2000, there was much more interaction, there was much more cooperation, but I think now, gradually, it is trickling up, especially on the private sector level, I think.
At the level of pilgrimage organizer, we do have panels where an Israeli Jewish woman, a Palestinian Muslim woman, and a Palestinian Christian woman speak to the group. Also, NGOs that collaborate with Israeli peace and justice groups. I think it's very admirable, and they don't get their voice isn't heard as well. The Israeli Jews who are working for peace and justice as well.
The thing here is, it's always we do plans to meet Israelis and Palestinians, but the thing here is how we can ask the Israelis to bring their pilgrims to Palestine, to Beit Lahem, how they can come and see that we are really good people too. This is, and they let them know that the Christian exists, as Palestinian Christian. This is the only thing we wish, because when we put people together, make peace. This is our hope that will happen. Thank you. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Hill, and I do work with HCEF as a volunteer, but I'm going to take off my HCEF hat for a minute. I'm also Presbyterian, and I understand, with the churches, we need to promote the tours, and I'm actually trying to promote a tour with my own church and other organizations. I just want to direct a question, because we had such a vibrant conversation yesterday about business, but a burning question that I have, and it relates to the Presbyterian Church in July of this year. They made a resolution to promote positive investment in Palestine. And my question is directed to the businesses, the businessmen from Palestine, Bank of Palestine, Reach. What, if you could pick one thing that the churches or individuals or organizations could do, what would it be? Like, where do we start?
Then 5-star hotels in Jericho and the Dead Sea.
The problem of the Dead Sea, it's controlled by the Israelis. Of course, I would love to, see, I mean, the Dead Sea area can absorb easily at least 20 hotels. And it's a proven success, because the Jordanians have done it and they are successful. But again, those are part of the impediments of the reality on the ground. That Area C is a problem that we cannot invest in. I'll tell you a personal experience. I have plans for a hotel in Beit Jala, and within the boundary of Beit Jala. But when I applied for the license, I found out that it has to go through Beit El, which is the the Israeli civil administration. It was only a month ago that I got the okay. Even though the area that my land is on, it's a proper Beit Jala municipality. But it took me such a long time to get the permit, and now to get the license probably will take me another 8 to 1 year period.
Hashim would like to comment?
I think where do you start? I mean, you just start with, I think over the years, we've been coming here and doing just general awareness about the investment climate, the regulatory environment, the ease of doing business in Palestine, and how Palestine isn't, the perception versus reality, that actually it's a safe place to invest in. There's no corruption. There's a legal and regulatory environment that fosters and protects investors' rights, and that actually, in the last 5 years, if you compare Palestine versus the global markets as somewhere where you would invest in, it's actually been a great place to put your money, because, like Ratib mentioned, I mean, since 2008, while most of the developed world, like the US and Europe, has just taken a killing in terms of returns and losses, let's say, some of the new frontier countries, and one of them is like Palestine, which are off the radar screen and not leveraged and not exposed and don't have all these risky assets and risky investments, and don't have aggressive mortgage lending policies, and more traditional countries and markets that are a bit more conservative in the way they're structured. And Palestine is a traditional market. We, as a bank, we take deposits and we give simple loans with good collateral, and we don't overextend. We don't have mortgage-backed securities or option derivative markets or anything like that. So, I mean, to answer the point, in a way, the banking sector, I mean, I'm saying for Bank of Palestine, but the banking sector is a good entry point to any market that one is interested to invest in, because what do banks do? Banks open branches, they collect people's deposits, and they give loans to small businesses, to people who need money to build a house or buy a property. We give loans to startup companies, to small, medium businesses. We also give loans to large companies like telecom companies, and we do business with people like Reach and Paltel and others. We invest in pharmaceutical companies. We're part of developing the economy and building Palestine, and we essentially do good. You know, for the community, we dedicate 5% of our profits to donating and giving back to society and in healthcare and education and so on. So I think simply, you know, a good entry point into Palestine would be an investment in a company like Bank of Palestine, that's been around for 52 years, that's been through all the struggles, all the pains, all the challenges, and is still here today and looking forward to a brighter future. Thank you.
Yes, I want to confirm that I think every American who has interest in Palestine, I'm not going to ask you to give us donation. I'm asking you invest in Palestine. And Bank of Palestine, you know, is offering us to invest there. You know, if you have $1,000 or $1 million, they are willing to accept that in order to support the Palestinians there and in order to create jobs, and this is, as we said, will lead to prosperity and peace. And I think you should, before you leave, to talk to the diaspora or the international manager of Bank of Palestine, Salim Hodali. He's in the back there. Maybe we can talk to him and find out how you could be part of the peace process, you know, we want to do in Palestine. And the same thing, even if you cannot do it now or that, go talk to your church and come back to me and I connect you with Salim, because I made money, you know. And, you know, and I'm Ratib Rabia and I approve this ad.
Thank you for asking that question. Actually, I think Hashim touched on the point. For us as Reach, we've been coming here for the 3rd year. We've been trying to raise awareness about investment in Palestine. We had to put, deeds in, against words. And we had opened up the center in Bethlehem to support employing people in Bethlehem and tapping into new resources. So what we need now is immediate business. And I think, with your kind of connections, direct with the, links with the religious groups and church groups and your type of connections, I think we need to immediately translate that into contracts. I mean, churches has hospitals. They run and manage hospitals. They run and manage social welfare programs and AIDS programs and so forth. And I think that should be the start. Our desire is to be connected to businesses, but I think at the same time we can be linked to direct business that come from the church resources. And again, we're not looking at this from a charity point of view. We're equal. All what we want is be given the chance to bid on things and show the kind of quality of services that we can bring to the table. And we're competitive. We benchmarked ourselves into against a lot of different places, ranging from India to Malaysia to Singapore and elsewhere, Canada. And we're competitive. So try us out. We will never disappoint you at all. Just give us the chance to apply. That's it.
Thank you for bringing this up. This is something, yes, you need that, because this is something always you want to do something, in Palestine, and we are giving you the opportunity to help and do business in Palestine through the call center we have with Reach Baltel. They made this specially in Bethlehem. They put this call center together in order to help our people in Bethlehem, and it is with partnership with HCEF. Please, I'm asking you, I mean, this is something, an appeal to all of you. I'm not asking you to donate money here. I'm asking you to see how you can help me out in making that call center, as we said before, in order to recruit or to create jobs for 100 people in Bethlehem area. And this wouldn't happen unless if you help me out and go to your churches, go to your organization, membership. There is a lot of things we can do, small or large contracts, and I can help you out. And Christine, she is the one who's in charge of that too, could be the one helping you, and talk to us, and then we can make a difference in Bethlehem without really doing a lot of work, except to approach the organization who does who use call center for customer service. Yes, we have about 10 minutes, and if you have anything to say, please make it short in order to carry on with our program. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ratib. I went on the trip to Palestine sponsored by HCEF in March, and there are 4 of us actually here in the group that went at that same time. It was an excellent trip. And one of the things we did was spend 5 nights. We arrived in Tel Aviv and went right to Bethlehem. And we spent 5 nights at the HCEF facility there. And it was wonderful. And I walked by myself to the Nativity Square at 9 o'clock at night without any concern, any problem, much safer than walking in my neighborhood. So I think that I think people have to know that, and it really, I felt kind of saddened the fact that we were whisked through because we had the right plates through the checkpoints, and other people had to wait. The other thing is that it also was very sad as we were coming back. We used it as our base and went to Jerusalem then for day trips. It was also sad to see all the buses leaving Bethlehem at night because they couldn't possibly stay. They went to see the Church of the Nativity, ran in there, and left right away. And I think there's, the churches that go there on religious pilgrimages should feel that, hey, Jesus stayed there. That's where Mary and Joseph went. That's where he was born. Why can't we stay there? I think people have to really feel that we should be able to stay there. And I think it really should be encouraged within our church. Just want to say something about Tony Bosnick here, who is the Director of Social Justice for the Diocese of Washington. And he's done a great job in, starting a Middle East group, support group for the diocese. And so I would certainly welcome anybody in the Washington area who's a part of the diocese to come and talk to either Tony or I afterwards. The other thing is so many denominations around Washington do have that presence and do have that activity, and they're a great witness. They've set the bar high and encourage others to do that. The other thing is, that I know in your church, Rateb, and I think it's very important, we're part of the Global Solidarity Committee also for the Archdiocese. And we are now broader, we have several places that we're involved with, including you, fortunately, with Palestine. We just had a conference and we had a Palestinian flag on the table because we did have a church in the diocese that was twinned with Palestine, and I think we want to see that promoted too. And I again would encourage anybody from any parish, any denomination to really push the twinning program. I go to Haiti all the time because we've been twinned for a long time, but I think Palestine offers a great opportunity and should be encouraged. And so I think those are the things. I think the other important thing is when they do go to Palestine, to meet with some of these groups that are part of the solution, hopefully, the future solution. I think that's very critical. We met with Parent Circle, we met with Israelis Against Home Demolitions, we met with Sami Awad. And this isn't just a nice thing to do. This is a responsibility for justice because we are complicit. We're giving $3 million a day to support the occupation, $7 million a day. And we are complicit with that, and I think we need to do what we can to be responsive.
Thank you very much. Let's take the last 2 questions, and they can comment. Anybody would like to comment after these last 2 questions?
Just a quick question to build on what Christine asked. This summer, 2 major denominations chose to pursue morally responsible investing. Are there approaches to those denominations to provide them opportunities for that? Because they're looking actively to invest their money. How do they do that?
Sister.
In addition to standing behind video cameras, Sister Ann and I also occasionally, through the years, lead tours to the Holy Land. And one of the things that impressed me very early on, we had a biblical scholar who is a very close friend of Ann's and had agreed to go and give his teaching along the way. His name is Gerard Sloyan. And so Gerard had his local travel agent arrange everything for us. We had a small group, but a really interested group. What impressed me so much, and I don't hear too much about it, but I think that it was vitally important, at least for that group and for some of the others we've led. Gerard never said anything about preparing people for where we were staying, in particular that aspect of the trip. But we had done some background. We didn't know where we were staying, so we just gave them general background on that. Well, we stayed in all Palestinian hotels. We got there and we stayed in the old city, and we stayed in, I forget the name of it, but anyway, it was perfectly good. It was about a third-class American hotel. It was clean. The food was food. When we, it was fine. But when we got to Nazareth was when I really found out how important it was. We stayed not in the first class plus hotel on the banks of the Galilee. We stayed in a place called the New Grand, up on the hill as you enter into Nazareth. Well, it wasn't new. It wasn't grand. The nicest thing about it was the blue tile bathrooms. But the thing that was so impressive was that those people that hotel had been in their family for years. And they were so proud of the fact that they were able to have us come there and stay in their little rooms with their little armory cots and their one chair and a box in the corner to hang your clothes in. And they were perfectly charming and lovely and kind and warm-hearted. We didn't have to say a word to our group. They had been in Israel. They had done the usual thing that you do in this country when you go to a nice hotel. But they recognized right away the difference that it could make, and the difference that it made in their understanding of what was going on without us preaching or saying anything. It was a marvelous experience for all of us. And so when we go, we try to build in something like that. I mean, we do build in something like that. And I was glad to hear the lady say, give people a chance to have some kind of service experience, because that would be part of it. But I just hope that everybody who goes does something like that. And the other thing is, I think it's a real mistake not to give the group an opportunity to go to some of the classic religious sites that are now in Israel, in Jerusalem proper, that are run by the Israelis. Because if you're an American tourist, you know those things are there. There's probably some of them you want to see, and it would be unfortunate to have people go and only see the so desperately important Palestinian sites, but never see any of the others because they couldn't make any kind of comparison then. And they would come back wondering. And I think that would motivate, militate against what we're trying to show.
Thank you, sister. Anybody has?
And I think Rateb has done a magnificent job. Everybody knows that in the travel and all the rest of it. From the very first conference in some school somewhere to all through the years. Thank you, Rateb.
Thank you, sister. Anyway, Sister Anne and Sister Caritas, they've been with us since conference 1, now it's 14, and they recorded on video every conference we had, you know, up till now. And thank you very much for keeping the records for us. Thank you. Any final comments about what they said? Do you have anything to say before?
Well, I like the idea that, you know, talking about investments, it's an opportunity, and really we'd like to see it as, you know, people coming to invest and make money together. Thank you.
For pilgrimages, I just ask you to really consider who you book with, where you go, where you stay, and whom you meet. If we can be of any service, we're here to help you and co-partner with HCF in any way.
No, not much more to build. I mean, I guess, you know, bottom line is investing in Palestine, investing in tourism does bring a good return. I think I'll just say one thing, that my company, we're one of these examples. The Bank of Palestine we did get our loan when we wanted to expand our operation. And that's been very successful. And the bank has also been our sponsor for Visit Palestine for 3 years running. And when it comes to organizing pilgrims or any trip to Palestine, I think you just have to approach it with an open eye, with a balanced approach, and, you know, think of a pilgrimage of transformation, because that's really what it's all about ultimately. And be our advocates when you return. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one thing, you know, for Jeff, yes, you know, they are representative of the churches. They came here, they are with us to check what the opportunities in Palestine, and hopefully, you know, we'll have some results out of that. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you, everyone, for this panel. I'll give the microphone to